All right, welcome. So we are conducting a kind of student panel on my CAPSTONE project, which is on teaching controversial topics in the social studies classroom. And I'm lucky enough, I have 10 students here who have agreed to kind of serve on that panel. They've been prepped ahead of time on kind of what the questions are, but their main goal, our main goal, is to provide information to up-and-coming teachers or even seasoned teachers who are kind of uncomfortable around this idea of teaching controversial topics in the classroom. So I want to thank you guys all for coming, and we're going to jump right into it. So the first question that we're going to kind of look at is, why do you guys think that teaching controversial topics is important or not important in a high school setting? And kind of what do you think the risks and rewards are to approaching those kind of topics? And remember, it's unique to a social studies classroom as opposed to science. So anyone who wants can go ahead and jump in.
I think teaching students to challenge beliefs is a good kind of mindset that students should have, especially in the classroom. Something challenging if they think it's like a different opinion or something they're not used to. I think it's just something that should be important in the classroom. Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to build off, I agree, like challenging what they experience, because a lot of times we grow up, especially now with social media, we're surrounded with exactly what we want to see, and we're not usually introduced, especially our parents or social media, we're not introduced to other point of views or things we're not interested in, and if it brings up a new point of view, it really can contrast what we see, and it can give us some new ideas.
All right. Anyone else?
Yeah, I feel like especially this is important in high school because not everyone has the chance to go in college where a lot of people kind of meet together and you kind of have a chance to see what's different in the world, right? So a lot of these high school settings, I feel like right now are kind of polarized in the area that you want them to be. And if you teach controversial topics from other sides, then people will actually see that there's more to the world than what's in their own community.
Well, I mean, I think that's a really great point, the idea that we think about when you go to college, you get to dive deeper into these topics. So anyone who's not attending college isn't allowed to kind of critically think past that point of rote memorization or whatever is happening in those classrooms. All right, anyone else want to add anything?
Yeah, I want to add on to that. I think that's why it's so important to learn these rules or learn these topics early. I learned a lot of these topics, important and difficult topics in middle school and throughout high school so far. So I think it's important to find the root and then keep building on that and keep learning so that you cannot just learn from these important topics but also spread them.
Nice, okay. Does anyone want to go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just want to say that I think a big part of it is also just getting people to think about the topics and being open to share their feelings, because I think that has been kind of reinforces learning skills that you can use beyond just the classroom setting.
Okay.
That you can apply into real life in terms of how to develop an argument, how to back it up, and all those things.
Nice. So I think you guys did a great job, especially of exposing kind of the rewards of teaching those controversial topics. Does anyone have any opinions about some of those risks that you think teachers might take in doing that?
Well, I think just a teaching aspect, when you're kind of diving into these controversial kind of topics, it provides it kind of makes the teacher maybe feel not vulnerable but kind of pushed out, because they might be displaying kind of how they feel on a certain topic, which obviously kind of puts them at risk, and maybe the students kind of change their kind of mindset of the teacher and what they believe in. But at the same time, the teacher needs to provide facts and evidence based on a topic, which is important for students to know, not to defer their beliefs, but critically think about the topic.
Bring up a great point, because there's a difference, right? And when I say controversial topic, there are two kinds of controversial topics, right? What do I mean by that? Ones that are based on facts and some that are based on opinions. And so we would definitely allow more leniency to students on ones that are based on opinion. Because facts are facts. You can't, if I have an opinion that differs from fact, that's different than if I have an opinion that's my own opinion and there aren't really facts that kind of support that one way or the other. Someone else, go ahead.
I think also for a lot of teachers, they're scared to lose with their position, especially for public school teachers. They all have to follow a kind of a script throughout a year, and they have to teach these certain things. And I know for like some places they can't teach certain things, and that's like definitely a drawback. If they like try and like dabble in some like controversial stuff, they could get like in trouble with like parents or the school board or stuff like that.
And you think that's detrimental to the learning process? Okay.
I was just adding on to what he said. Like they run the risk of like getting like personal, and like if the discussion like can't be contained in the sense that it's like respectful, in a lot of ways, like people can get offended by it, and
Okay.
that could lead to trouble.
All right.
I think mainly for the risk is that it can start like an argument like based off like everybody's like personal view on like something that like they've been taught like growing up. Even if it's like it could be like about like anything, mainly just like it could be about culture too, seeing different perspectives on like how like people like grew up or like something like regarding their personal life, and like maybe someone else in the classroom may not like agree with that, and maybe you can just like start a whole nother discussion that could lead to something worse.
Okay, that's good.
Outside of like opinion versus facts, I feel like one of the biggest problems is probably the parents, because if a student like goes home and he's talking about how, oh, we talked about this political view in class, but the parents are like, well, no, I don't want you learning about that political view because you're this political view, because your father and I are this political view. So I feel like the main problem is just like the parents and like trying to reach out to the students, even though it's beneficial for the student to know the politics and the topics that go on in the world.
Nice job. All right, so let's go to question 2. And this kind of falls into question 1, but it's asking you to think a little bit deeper about what other challenges. So in this last one, we talked about how parents are an obstacle, that's a challenge teachers face when introducing it. Allowing students to express themselves and kind of maybe it's off fact would be a challenge. What other challenges do you guys think, like you guys have had a lot of teachers in your life, I'm sure you'd say some of them were very comfortable speaking out on controversial topics, and others may have been way more hesitant to do that. What other challenges do you think teachers face when introducing some of these controversial topics?
I think it might even start from the kids. Like, I think it's just hard for a lot of kids to learn about these, you know, important but difficult topics. And I think that's like a big challenge for these teachers, because you need to get through the kids first in order to like really cement these topics.
So when you say hard for the kids, what do you mean?
Like, you know, people are uncomfortable.
Okay.
People don't want to hear certain things. So.
Okay, so the uncomfortableness that's created in the classroom is an obstacle because teachers generally don't want uncomfortableness, and so it's one of those things where you have to go through the uncomfortableness in order to get to the end, but a lot don't want to go through that uncomfortableness.
I was just gonna add like misinformation as a challenge, because a lot of times like if your sources and evidence don't come from a place that's like valid, you end up having beliefs that also aren't valid and aren't argumentative either.
That's also great input, this idea that you guys all come in with preconceived ideas that are so based on random things now because of social media, that teachers face that challenge when introducing these topics, because it would almost be better if you were all like clean slates that had not heard anything before, because now teachers are gonna have to kind of battle that misinformation. Good job.
Yeah, I mean, for like an example and adding on to that, I know of like kids who still think the Holocaust isn't real, and a lot of that sure is their parents, but they're not going to be like comfortable talking about it in class if they themselves like seriously don't believe in it, or like they've been told their whole lives that it's not real. Like it's just not going to work out.
What a great example of why number 1 is relevant, because what's the only way that kid will ever be able to come to any sense of truth or reality in his life?
Here,
Face with facts.
Through conversations, facts being presented. Is it going to be uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Yes, it is, but they're going to get there eventually.
I think being in an area, like especially California, where it's a lot of like liberal ideas, or like in Florida where you have a lot of conservative ideas, if you're like a teacher who has kind of beliefs that are opposite against, especially if it's more opinion based, it can be really uncomfortable like to bring it to the class also, because like fear of the parents kind of pushing back against you, and it's probably also really uncomfortable for the teachers because a lot of the students might have like extremely opposing views and might not take their opinion lightly.
Nice, good job.
I'm just gonna add on to that, and I think that's definitely amplified when you go into like small settings. Like say you have a town, you have one school, right? Because we're like in a bigger area, right? Teachers can move, whatever. But in like smaller areas, say like you're in Arkansas, you're in a small town, 5,000 people. Everyone knows each other. Everyone knows who your teachers are. Everyone shares the same teachers. You've been there throughout generations, right? And it's really hard to go against like not just your students, but you're going against like your neighbors if you have like opposing ideas and things like that. And it's just hard to like. It almost feels like you're gonna go against everything that they stand for, and of course that's probably gonna lead to some resentment between the two parties.
What else do you think may exist with teachers themselves that makes it uncomfortable to teach these controversial topics?
Their own political view could be like less likely than another, so like they themselves could be, I don't know, racist or sexist or something, and they're trying to talk about it to the class.
All right, that's good. What else? Yep.
Adding on to his point, I think that like while these biases exist, like there's no point in trying to deny the bias or trying to mute it because everybody has them, and so like I feel like it's important for to express that respectfully, and in a way that like people won't get offended.
Okay.
Instead of just trying to like mute it and pretend those biases don't exist.
All right.
So.
And then, go ahead.
I think in this idea of like people getting offended in this whole like cancel culture that we're kind of in, like teachers are definitely probably afraid that if they say something, they'll definitely like get canceled because people definitely don't like their beliefs.
Okay. Do you think a female teacher will have a easier time discussing women's rights topics than a male teacher?
Yeah.
So what am I getting at? What's another obstacle you think that teachers face in facing these controversial topics?
Like talking about something that doesn't relate to them. Like I don't know. I just feel like if I was in a teacher's position, I would be like pretty uncomfortable teaching something I'm not like 100% sure about.
Okay, that's a good one. So if you don't feel as though you are properly trained to discuss the civil rights movement, you're going to be way more hesitant to discuss the civil rights movement. And so a lot of these controversial topics are things that we don't talk about, and so people aren't comfortable discussing them in a setting. Someone's maybe won't bring up the election because they don't know enough about the process and how it works, so they don't want to talk about those things. So you would have to be extra trained in some of these controversial topics in order to kind of fully embrace that. All right. Number 3. Now again, let's keep this with social studies because I think we'd all say, we shouldn't bring up, weird stuff in the social studies classroom. But do you think there are topics, and right now we'll focus on like even higher level, 11th and 12th grade students. Do you think there are topics that exist in history that should not be broached in a high school classroom? Why or why not?
I think there should never be a topic that we don't bring up in the classroom because it's important for students to understand all aspects of history and not kind of be censored from one opinion, because that could lead them to have opinions that are formulated behind misinformation or not being taught something else that could be important to their values or beliefs.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree completely with him. I think that everything should be taught in the classroom, regarding whatever the subject is, and just how what he said, it could lead to misinformation, and it can lead to a student's thought process just to be different and just think about different topics on how some people see it differently, even though it's not taught correctly.
Okay.
I want to kind of disagree. I feel like if there's any topic that's super, I don't know, gory or uncomfortable in any way, it shouldn't be talked about in detail. Maybe it could be talked about a little and mentioned, but I don't think there should be details or anything that could seriously make a student feel uncomfortable.
So that's interesting. So and I think that's one of those, because you guys are aware, so there's been laws passed in Texas and Florida that have said that certain topics like slavery, racism, make certain students feel uncomfortable about themselves. And so my guess is that's not what you're referring to, but what was the key word he used?
Gory?
Uncomfortable. And so if we teach history in a way that keeps people comfortable what history is being taught.
Altered.
An alternate history. So it's an interesting take, because like if you're talking about, we're talking about the rape of Nanking, and we're going to talk exactly what every soldier did to every single person in China, most of us would say, no, there's no need for that. It's not, it's not even historical in the matter of us taking anything from it. We can say a statement about how it was brutality that helps us get there. So if that's what you're referring to, I think we all agree to that. The word uncomfortable makes it very hard, because now what do I as a teacher have to ensure now? That everybody's comfortable in the conversation. And so it becomes this really kind of dance, which takes me back to a place where, what am I not going to do? Talk about anything that could make people uncomfortable. And so it's kind of but I get what you're saying.
I was gonna say how like in English we talked about like the danger of like one story, and so the idea that's important to share like multiple like experiences, and none of those should be censored, because as soon as you do that, then the student's perception is now limited and altered into something different from reality.
Okay. Yep.
I think maybe to add on to both those points, I think there's different sides of like uncomfortability, as in like someone doesn't want to hear a specific topic or something, and then someone who's experienced an aspect of that topic and doesn't want to hear it because that's like what they went through. They don't want to hear it because it's scarring for them.
Okay.
But I think it's really important for people to be uncomfortable with themselves and really like dive deep into these important topics.
Nice.
Adding on to one of the previous points, I think it's definitely important to learn everything about history, because as soon as you start taking certain aspects about it, not really learning about history, you're just learning about certain like events. And so I think a really important part of history is just learning everything, like the good and the bad, so that you can learn from it.
Okay, really good. I think this jumps in perfectly with the next question, which is, how can teachers ensure that all students feel heard and respected, even if their opinions differ from the majority? And how should a teacher handle a situation where a student's expressing information that counters truth, but it's their opinion, while still keeping the student feeling like they can talk? So, do you guys have any ideas?
Well, I just feel like as a teacher, when you're in an environment, you're bringing up a controversial topic. It's important to include both sides of the argument's opinion, because it lets the students feel valued and be able to express their belief and opinion on a certain topic, and it can not counteract but go against other truths and stuff to present a presentable argument. But when it comes to the second question, like how teachers handle where a situation that doesn't line up, meaning if some kids were to present information that's not totally factual, that the teacher can re-inform them during the debate, and that can maybe present a moment for them to critically think among the topic. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's important for teachers to maintain an open, kind of closer relationship with their students, a more open-minded relationship, because me especially, like I've come up and had opinions where we differed, or I brought up facts to you that may not have been true, and I felt comfortable coming up, asking about it, and you completely shutting it down with fact or evidence, and showing me that those truths that I believed were false. And in that way, I kind of learned, I grew and felt comfortable in the process of bringing up different ideas.
So that's good, and I think this, it goes back to 10 seconds ago. So my hope would be Trevor expressed an opinion about and I came back and kind of countered it a little bit, but what's my hope? That you still feel free to talk and to express opinions, and that, and I always say, so I've been teaching 26 years, and I still, when someone asks me if I'm a good teacher, I give the same answer all the time. I'm learning to be. It's a process. You're always trying to get better at what you do, and so there's still things I can learn and how to deal with different people.
Yeah, I would like to add on to like both of their points. Like if I was a teacher, for example, I would want to keep like the classroom neutral and like bring up one side's idea and the other side's idea, and then like I don't know, just talk about each side, and then just like making sure it's not like making sure it's being respected from both sides.
Okay.
Something like that.
That's good.
I was also gonna say that when someone uses like personal experiences as their like evidence, you can't really like shut that down because it's their experience. The source is them.
Yep.
So like you can't say too much about like that specifically. Like say their experience is invalid because it's their experience. However, you can introduce them to new ideas
Beautiful.
and experiences and keep them open-minded and considering other possibilities.
That's beautiful. So if they can say, you know, I've never had a problem with a police officer, and so therefore police brutality doesn't exist, and you can present them and say, I understand that, I totally give that. Here are statistics that shows that the vast majority of people have. And so that counters while still giving the person their own experiences. Someone else had their hand up. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just most important that kids aren't left at the end of the day or at the end of the discussion ill-informed and not ready to have substantial like evidence for their argument that they have, whether it's for or against something. Because I feel like now our country is kind of like spreading these false narratives to these kids, and for us, we want these kids to lead us into the future, but not the wrong way, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Not with lack of information.
Okay. That's good. Go ahead.
It's still like a, like my thoughts, like not especially specific to like one teacher, but kind of like the education system as a whole.
Yeah.
'Cause like especially when we're younger, we're like not taught certain things. It's like too much for young kids to handle. But like especially for like when we're like taught like the Pilgrims and Native Americans, like lived in harmony, like everybody was happy. Like that didn't really happen. Like no one's introduced to that. It's like we're in this classroom, and it's like maybe like don't ill-inform us in that way. Like everyone was friendly, but like I don't know. Like there's gotta be like a route where we're not like kind of attacked with these like new ideas of like all these bad things happened and everything we were taught was wrong, but we have to believe our teachers.
Okay. Let me give a quick question. I want you guys to go around quickly and just kind of give a quick answer to it and why or why not. Do you believe as though presenting you with information that paints America in a negative light makes you feel less American or makes you feel like America is a bad place? Just go quickly through.
No, we're not. Well, not really for me because I'm not. Well, I'm not 100% sure, but like I just know it's not how. It's not. It doesn't define America.
Okay.
If-
Nice.
Yeah, I think similar, like just because there might be certain like bad parts about history, I mean, it doesn't make our country like bad as a whole. There's still other things that we can like still do well.
Nice.
I'm gonna say no, just because although the stuff happened in the past is kind of reflected on like in a core dynamic, like just the way we look back on things. But I think over time, as you know, as decades have moved on, like we've kind of as a society like grew and probably at least a little bit, and the people that live in the modern day probably shouldn't take the blame for what happened in the past, but kind of see it as a way that like wow, we messed up, and like society should constantly be reforming
Okay.
to the better.
Nice.
I say no as well. Just cause like just supporting like their claims as well. Just like how like there's a lot of like negatives just like back in time obviously, but like I feel like as like I've gone like older and like how like I've like seen like history like evolve, I've kind of like seen like just like a constant like just like increase in just like everything like kind of I don't really know how to explain it, but like I feel like America like as a whole has just like gotten like better over kind of like the years.
Okay.
And obviously with like a lot of like kind of like stuff going on, I feel like we can just do like a lot of things to like prevent that or like whatever's happening, and just to like constantly just be better.
Okay.
I say no, and I think understanding all aspects of American history and being able to strive for a change of a better nation makes you more American. In the sense that you would want to improve your country and all aspects of it, understanding where we went wrong in the past,
Okay.
and using that as a way to not make the same mistake twice in the future.
Nice.
Yeah, I agree with him. I say no, especially because like last year we did our research papers. We had to find like whether America was just or unjust. A lot of mine was focused on like being like progressive into the future and like trying to improve on what we did in the past. Doesn't make me feel less American. It just makes me feel like exactly what he said. We have like a chance to improve, and that makes me feel more American.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that's been said in the past. I wanted to add just like a little bit how I feel like this isn't about the past, but a lot of like the present day things in America. I feel like I see a lot like online and things. It's like, oh, this is happening in America. We have all these problems in America. It's a country falling apart. But I feel like when you look at it in comparison to other things, like my family grew up in communist Romania. I hear stories all the time about how awful it was, whatever, things like that. And it's like how fortunate you actually are to be, I think, in America, to have a chance to grow, to have a chance to do things like that. And I feel like a lot of people born here who have been here for a long time like don't recognize it, how like much more developed as a society we are in comparison to other places. And I feel like from our past we can learn to grow further and things like that.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm also gonna say no. I agree with everything that's already been said, and I was gonna say that like trying to paint something as like an ideal by censoring the not good stuff about it, it makes it seem like fake because nothing is perfect or ideal anyway. So by acknowledging these facts, I would argue it makes you be more American by looking at what's happened and how to progress in the future.
Nice. Okay. Couple more.
I'm gonna say no for two reasons. Firstly, because no matter what country you're in, no matter where you go, there is no there's always gonna be greedy and selfish people, and there's always gonna be people like nice and unselfish people. There's no like perfect utopia. And like secondly, if I myself am not religious, but if you want to go like a religious standpoint, God said humans would have free will, and the whole point of free will is that there's the negative that goes with the good and the good that goes with the negative.
Okay. And the negative doesn't necessarily make the whole society negative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with everyone's statements here. I just wanted to add I think we're not responsible for what happened, hundreds of years ago or years ago, but we're responsible for building a better society than it once was.
Okay. Good. And so general consensus was no all around that it doesn't, and I think I heard a couple times that what makes us great and probably better than communist Romania is the fact that what can we do as a society? Adapt. We can challenge ourselves, we can push ourselves, we look back at all the times we've evolved as a society. It's been the person that's looked at the negative and said, let's try and fix those things. All right, last question, and I want you to really be free to express what you think. I'm sure you've had teachers on both spectrums, teachers where you leave at the end of the year and go, I have no clue where that person stands on anything, and then teachers where you go, I know exactly where that person stands on everything. There's probably ways in which both are beneficial or helpful to you. There are probably ways in which both could do that differently than they do it. So, do you believe teachers should mask their own personal beliefs around controversial topics? Why or why not?
I want to say it's like both, because you don't want the teacher's opinion to like dilute the facts, so to speak.
Okay.
But at the same time, if you have the teacher's opinion, you could see like, oh, how does a traditional Republican view this? How does a traditional Democrat view this?
Okay. Yep.
I think a lot can be learned from like a teacher, because they're gonna be more like older and have more exposure to hopefully to a bunch of facts. So I think if they can share like a bunch of facts or events or things that they've observed and formulate their reasoning and express that to the class, I think students can learn a lot from like teachers and how certain facts shape their views without necessarily pointing to them to either one side or the other.
Okay, good. Zero.
I think I said this earlier, but I don't think it's like beneficial to like mask personal beliefs because everybody has them and exists. So like pretending they don't is just not useful. And also it's helpful to like differentiate like fact and opinion. Just like simple phrases like I'm introducing this as like this is my opinion, and then this is fact.
Okay, and so making sure you're establishing as an instructor that this is something that is just an opinion of mine and everyone's free to have their opinion, as opposed to, and I think we can go back to something like abortion as more of a factual or opinion position. Opinion, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice is really an opinion about how you view things, as opposed to the Holocaust, which is fact. And so I'm not going to debate somebody on whether the Holocaust happened or not, in terms of evidence. We'll go here and work this way.
I think that question really depends on the crowd you're informing, to be honest, because
Okay.
if you go into environments such as like the 11th and 12th grade here, like Bell, that when you probably present a certain topic, they're going to be more informed and understanding of the topic. Well, when you have developing high school students, sophomore, freshman year, they're not going to be as informed on a certain topic. So
Okay.
I feel like when you're in that more mature setting, you're able to express your personal belief and present the facts at the same time, and not have a huge, disagreement amongst the class. Well, when you're in those developing grades, they're just probably on social media at that age and hearing from their parents say, but have no reason why they're supporting a certain topic. They're just agreeing because the people that are around. So probably creates in that that school, like that classroom setting for like these younger people to kind of automatically have a certain view on you as a teacher instead of really judging the facts.
Nice, and that lends to what we talked about at the beginning of the year when we said, part of the problem, the misinformation you guys bring in based on 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade is because what do they have to teach you in 2nd grade? Fact or misinformation because of your development. Misinformation. So they have to teach you that the Pilgrims and the natives had a great meal together and they loved each other because it fits the narrative of what you're going to tell a 3rd grader. So that plays into what you can approach with people.
I feel like for me, I would kind of like prefer a teacher that would just like provide just one side of the argument, because like it would just really just inform me about a lot of true like factual information that I know that they know is true as well, and like I know that I can ask like questions to like expand like my knowledge on how like that like side of the argument is valid or not.
And when you say ask questions, what else can you do? You can challenge. You can challenge and question those beliefs. Now, this is important at that, I think, because I think someone said this at the beginning. What has to exist between teacher and student for that to happen?
Comfortability. Yeah.
Comfortability and trust. And so your belief that this person is talking from truth and experience as opposed to someone who's given you misinformation before.
First of all, I would like to agree with like everyone that said something. Like I would definitely agree. Like teachers should mask or like should not mask. But I would also like to add on that it depends if the teacher wants to mask their own personal belief or not. Like it depends. Like if the teacher's comfortable enough to share too as well, and like making sure like everything's under control, like, even when the teacher shares something that may not be agreed.
Good. Go here.
Playing like a devil's advocate to most of the ideas so far for this question. I feel like the teachers, at the same time, you have to make sure that both sides are shared, both like political spectrums are shared, because if they represent their personal belief and they don't know enough about the other side, like it's not gonna add up.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I feel like teachers should honestly not mask their own beliefs for the most part, because I feel like the reason you kind of come to school is to experience like other people, what their ideas are. I mean, I could download an ebook and listen to history for hours on end if I wanted to, right? Just listen to straight facts. But I feel like when you have teachers and you have other people and you have discussion, you can kind of hear where their viewpoints are coming from. And if everyone has really a mask of their own personal belief, you don't really have that. But then I also agree that if you get into like really polarized societies, maybe the teacher once in a while has to play like devil's advocate, like he was saying, and really show you that there is a different like approach if everyone's like agreeing with the same thing.
Okay.
I also think teachers should have an open perspective on their beliefs, or be open about their beliefs, because it's important from a student's perspective to understand that you have a resource and generally you have a teacher with expertise in what they believe, and you can go enforce, challenge, or question your beliefs with them, or bounce back ideas with said teacher. I think that's important.
I was just kind of going off what Trevor said. A teacher's voice shouldn't dominate the conversation. In fact, like they shouldn't be telling the student, like their opinion shouldn't like spread to the students. Rather, it should cause students to start thinking about their own opinions rather than just taking what their teacher said.
That was perfect. What was the key word he said?
Dominate?
Started with a T. Teacher shouldn't be telling students what to think. Well, dominating is in that same context. So if I come in and I say, this is what it is, you're not free to think about anything else, this is the way it is, blah, 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 that isn't dialogue. That isn't allowing challenging of topics. And so the idea being that I can express, so a teacher can express what they feel, but what should I be open to as an educator?
Others' opinions.
Others' opinions, and then as we go through that conversation, even sometimes I should be willing to say, okay, I didn't think about it like that. And that even though I'm 52 years old, I'm still learning also. All right, so I really want to thank these guys for helping out, and their insights hopefully will help you to kind of see a better picture, bigger picture of kind of the challenges that it is teaching controversial topics in the classroom. All right, thank you. All right, cool. Thank you, guys.
You know, I was thinking of doing the whole video.